Have a new mug. Sagittarius, optimistic. Hello everyone, it's Tracy here from Temperance Tarot with my February roundup. This of course will primarily be about the decks that I used this month, but I've got a couple of other things that I've used this month that I want to talk about, but I'll do that at the end so that if you're just into the decks, you can stop when we get to that part. So I'll go through the tarot decks first, and in an effort to make up for using so few decks in January, I used a lot of decks in February. I believe this is called the Little Monsters Tarot, not to be confused with the Mons Tarot, which also is Little Monsters. This is made by the same person who makes the Effervescent Tarot. It's a little, you can see it's a little, I think it's bridge sized. It might be poker card playing size, but it's a playing card deck size of tarot cards. They're black and white, and they're fairly minimal. And the creatures on them aren't technically people, they're little monsters. It's a precious little deck. It is cute and simple and generally gets the meaning across, although it is sometimes a little lacking in, in visual information. There are obviously some cards. This Four of Wands I think is fabulous. You've got the little pot with the Four of Wands and the little family, and they're working together and having this celebration, or working together to get these little trees planted or something along those lines. The Three of Arrows, clearly the Three of Swords works very well. Here's the Magician with his limniscate. But some of the cards are a little harder to interpret. Here's the Seven of Wands. Not quite sure what that's trying to say. The Star. She's all covered up, not quite sure why. Some of them are straight Rider-Waite-Smith, like the Eight of Wands. The Nine of Wands looks very much like the Rider-Waite-Smith. So this is a precious little deck. It read okay for me. It's not one of my favorite decks, but it's certainly not one of those decks that I feel the need to get rid of right away. I'll probably use it for a little while longer, and then I probably will pass it on to somebody else. It's an intriguing little deck, and I did enjoy using it. See, here's your Devil. He's a little interesting, but I don't get that sense of, being shackled to a vice or being tempted. He's just a little devilish monster. So cute little deck. The next deck is the Star Child Tarot. This is the Akashic, but with the borders. This is not a deck that I ever actually expected to get. I was always intrigued by it, but I've got lots of decks. It's a little pricey. The pink and purple, I didn't think that I was going to like that. Jen at Phoenix and Lotus had a sale earlier this year, and she sells a lot of indie decks, and I thought there were a couple of decks that I wanted to give a go, and if I could get them for a little discount, all the better, and the Star Child was one of them. I could not have been more surprised. I really like this deck. It gave me really great readings, and I did go onto Amazon and buy this companion book. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it was, $10. And you do get the descriptions of the cards, which I really like when they tell you what you're looking at. I know that's kind of silly because you should be able to see what you're looking at, but I'll have a look at the card and I'll see what I see, and then I'll pick up the book and see what the creator put there and see what I missed, that sort of thing, or maybe what she intended to be a focal point or something like that. So I really like that this book has the descriptions of the cards in it. The rest of it is very similar to the book that comes with, other than that description. I was just really surprised by how much I enjoyed this deck and how much I got out of the readings that I did for myself with this deck. I just thought that the messages were beautiful. I was able to, the energy of this deck, and I know it's just paper and pictures on paper, but the energy that came through to me, the energy that showed itself to me when I was using this deck was just amazingly calm and grounded, but at the same time being very much of the third eye. I'm not doing this justice. I'm just trying to say that I was very surprised at how much I like this deck, and it prompted me to go and order the Moonchild once she had that back in stock, and I've started using the Moonchild this week, and it will be included in next month's. So far, it does give me a very similar vibe, even though the color palette's a bit different. The Moonchild and the Starchild are giving me the same feels. I really like the Starchild, so the Starchild is staying in my collection. I cut off all my fingernails this morning. I had just gotten fed up with them. Never quite realized how much you use your fingernails to pick stuff up. How much I use my fingernails to pick stuff up. The Textured Tarot was another deck that I got from Phoenix and Lotus on sale. I had always been, this is another one that I had been intrigued about but wasn't quite willing to pay full price for. And so I got it when I got a coupon. This is a very nice deck. I just don't think I need this deck, if that makes any sense. I've got other things in my collection that are similar, that I like more than this deck. It's pretty much, you know, Rider-Waite-Smith. I think it tries a little too hard on the inclusivity front. You know, I know we want decks that are inclusive and everybody can see themselves in. And then there's some decks where that works really well and it just seems to be organic and natural, like Poppy Palin's Everyday Enchantment. I think that's the name of it, Everyday Enchantment Tarot, and the Next World Tarot. It works so well in those decks. In this deck, it felt a little forced to me. That is obviously just my perception. Other people don't see that at all, and that's fine. It's a very nice deck. Again, it's a lovely deck. It reads very nicely. I just don't think I need this one in my collection. So this one is available for purchase, or swap if you've got something interesting to swap. Generally, I charge about half retail when I sell my decks, and if you're in the US, I include shipping. If you're outside of the US, I just need a little help with the shipping. So if you're interested in the Textured Tarot, let me know. One of the reasons that the Textured Tarot wasn't my favorite was because of the cardstock. And you can see this is a very thick cardstock, and it does not bend at all. And you can't, it's the right size for riffle shuffling, but it absolutely has no bend to it whatsoever. And I know I heard Lisa over at Supportive Tarot say that she actually bent one of her cards in half trying to riffle shuffle it. So yeah, part of it is the tactile experience for me that is, you know, that's just not something, it's not something I'm excited to use. Other people, you know, I have such big hands and I do love a good riffle shuffle. Other people with smaller hands that can't manage a riffle shuffle, this probably would work very well for them. And here we have the Intuitive Tarot by Cilla Conway. And if you don't know, Cilla published this deck years ago and it went out of print. And very recently, she has done an independently published reprinted version of this deck. If you want to get a copy of this deck, if you go to Facebook and go to a Facebook group called The Intuitive Tarot, you can join there, and Scylla is the she runs that group, and you can contact her about getting a copy of this deck. I had this deck. I had the original version before, and I traded it. I traded it to Kasha at Tarot Map for one of her wands, and I do not regret it for a single moment. I love the wand that I got from Kasha. But I was glad to get the opportunity to get another copy of this, because I had tried it before and it just didn't resonate with me for some reason, which is why I passed it on. And now I'm getting a second chance with it. And I'm so glad, because my second chance, it worked. It just worked for me. The guidebook is smaller with this version than with the original publication. The cards are bigger, and they haven't, there's a border around the original cards that I think, now that I've seen both of them, I think it did kind of dampen the spirit of this deck. And I think that what she's done here is absolutely exquisite and just makes her artwork sing, and does make it intuitive, because I found, as much as I love a good guidebook, I do prefer to read this deck without the guidebook and just look at her images and see what they say to me in that moment. I think that they are fabulous. I can't say enough marvelous things about this deck and how it reads for me. It's just amazing. And it's amazingly not that expensive for an independently published deck. It's the cardstock is, I'd call it like a semi-gloss. It's not that matte, rubbery feeling cardstock, but at the same time, it's not super shiny. It shuffles really well, although the cards are so big that even I have trouble riffle shuffling it. But if you want to do I'll do it in a second, if you want to do an overhand shuffle, they just slide against each other beautifully. Yeah, that Tower card. So yes, this one just, it reads beautifully. Get that Judgment. Six of Wands. In her guidebook, she does change the elemental associations of wands and swords. So wands or batons are air in her guidebook, and swords are fire. And you can tell that in the images of a few of the cards where the swords have a very fiery sort of image to them. But, you know, I don't read that way. I read batons as fire and swords as air, and I'm going to continue to do that regardless of the deck. If the deck has skewed it to the point where you can't see it the way that, you know, I see it, if I can't see it the way that I read, I'm probably not going to use that deck. This deck doesn't do that. This deck, I can read my swords, so you can see that. No, that's not the one I was thinking of. See, I still see air there. I see air, but that could mean show fire to somebody else. Here we go. This is a good example. The one or the ace of batons, which I would think of as very fiery. We've got bubbles of air and air flowing, but I don't have to. And here we have a sword. The one of swords has a lot of fire around it. But with this deck, even though Scylla has changed the elementals, I don't have to read it that way. Her pictures aren't so restrictive. Her images aren't so restrictive that I have to read it that way. So I can continue to read it the way that I choose to read it. So this deck is definitely a keeper. I am not getting rid of this one. I really am enjoying it. Shuffling this deck. Now it is a very large deck. Textured Tarot is standard tarot size, so let's compare it to one of those. That is a cute Nine of Cups. But you can see it is, let me do it this way. It's a little bit taller and significantly wider than a standard tarot size. With my big hands, I can manage to riffle shuffle it, but just barely. but it does have some bend to it. But obviously, when you're doing it on camera, you can never do it very well. I also have big enough hands to where I can overhand shuffle it sideways. They just slide beautifully on each other. It just shuffles nicely. But this way is probably the easiest way. The overhand long ways shuffle is probably going to be the easiest way to shuffle that deck. The tea is Puka Love, and I kind of like it. It's very subtle. It had rose in it, but I don't get overpowered by rose. I think I'm just tasting the lavender mostly. Kind of spicy. It's good. This next one is the Ophidia Rosa Tarot, and I got this one in a trade as well as the Little Monsters Tarot. Those are decks that I never would have bought on my own, but given the opportunity to trade for them, I jumped on them because I would love to try them. And this deck, let's face it, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful deck. It's got that sort of tea-stained appearance that I like. It's very beautiful. The artwork is gorgeous. But to be perfectly honest, I think that the creator was trying to punk us, saying if we give them beautiful cardstock and the lovely matte gilded edges that they love and the names they're familiar with, they'll buy our tarot deck. Because this tarot deck, the only way I can read it is based on my knowledge of my existing tarot knowledge. There is nothing in these images to read. The images are lovely. I think they're pretty to look at. But there is absolutely nothing in these images to read. And here's the Fool. I tried a little bit with if the flower was bending down, you know, like this, that it was either contemplative or sad, and upright flowers were a little more positive or open. See, like here with the Ten of Swords, we do have a little bit, every single one of the, we've got a lot of snakes in this deck, but the snakes, I can't figure out, you know, they're just everywhere. I don't see a special meaning there. And here in the Ten of Swords, we do have broken stems. We don't have 10 of them. But the flowers, you know, still, it's fairly recent. But, you know, if you bring home a bunch of fresh flowers from the store, this is what you do to your flowers before you put them in the vase to help them last longer. So, yeah. And this looks very protective to me. That's the Five of Pentacles. Rather than, I miss my fingernails. Rather than being in any way distraught or anything like that. These flowers are all open and happy and protected. So yeah, this deck was fun to play with and experiment with, and oh, let me tell you how it shuffles. Let me tell you how it shuffles. It is such a good shuffler. It bends and it bridges and it has nice sturdy thick cardstock and it's beautiful. But this one, I don't know, I don't really want to get rid of it right away, but at the same time, I know I'm not really going to read with this because I have so many other decks that give me so much more from their imagery than this deck does. So there you go. If you really want it, reach out. We'll see what we can do. Oh, and the guidebook, there's no guidebook. It's a little piece of paper that has like a haiku on it. I don't think it's technically a haiku, but the magician says, all is before you, a cycle, a voice. You've already begun, but before you, a choice. I'm not very good with poetry. I am very much face value. Tell me something the way so that I can understand what you mean. And I am not a philosopher. I am so not a philosopher. This little guidebook with the little rhyming couplets, they're nice. Okay, now we have my Unicorn Tarot deck, which is not a unicorn deck. It's the Silhouettes Tarot. It's a tarot deck that I have wanted for years and years. And it has been out of print all those years and I was never able to get it. there was a thread on one of the Facebook groups that I'm part of, probably for love of cards, that I think it was Gail asked, you know, what's your unicorn deck? What's a deck you've always wanted and have never been able to get? And I put Silhouettes Tarot in there, as well as the Daniloff. I know I could get the Daniloff, but it's just so expensive. And somebody posted that said, oh, well, the creator, I think his name is, his pen name anyway, is Masa, has a limited number of damaged decks available on the website, and you can get one. And I was like, I jumped on that so quickly, because even damaged, you know, I was only going to be able to get a used one anyway, so it would have some level of wear on it. I have been so thrilled with the condition of this deck. It just, I can't tell that there's anything wrong with it. I took the box, you know, it comes in a plain tuck box, and I was not happy with keeping it in there. Make Playing Cards has these tins. They're only about $3 or $4 each. And what I did was I took a photocopy of the cover of the box and just I taped it to the top of this Make Playing Cards tin, which is the perfect size for a standard tarot deck. And now I have a nice sturdy container for my Silhouettes Tarot. I got several of these tins when I was buying them from Make Playing Cards, and have quite a few decks that I've put in them. But just doing a photocopy and doing clear packing tape on the top, and I know what's in the tin. I'm so happy to have this deck. I've already done a full walkthrough, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's beautiful. It reads beautifully. There's all sorts of nuanced imagery in there, and you see something new every single time. Sometimes you have to kind of step back from the images to see the full picture, and sometimes you need to kind of zoom in on a specific detail. I love this deck. I think it's fabulous. It is kind of color-coded, so you'll see the cups are blue, the pentacles are green. Generally, the swords are sort of a purpley color, and the wands are, you know, the majors are kind of everywhere. And the wands should be sort of orange and red. Wonderful deck. Oh, I have the little white book mixed in there. You do get 2 strength and 2 justice cards, so that you can choose, you know, whether you want them at 8 or 11. And I must have just meshed them in. Yep, there's the extra strength. Oh, and you get these, also these extra spirit, mind, body. And there's my justice at 8, so that's it. I'm sure that's why I had that way. Shuffles nicely. It's not the best shuffler that I've got, but it shuffles very nicely. It has a pretty decent bend, and of course has this gorgeous silver edging on it. And as much as I love this deck, I love it. It's in my top 10 now. I don't think it's my absolute favorite. I still think the Lion's Gateway is my absolute favorite. That and the Saki, but this one is right up there. And then my last tarot deck that I used in February, I told you I used a lot of decks, is the Crystal Unicorn Tarot. I had absolutely no intention of buying this deck, but then Doreen Virtue came out with that list of things that were going to send you to hell, and unicorns were on the list, so immediately I went out and I had to buy a unicorn deck, because that's who I am. If Doreen says that it's going to send me to hell, then I'm going to go to hell all the way. And surprisingly, I actually like this deck a whole lot. Well, not really surprisingly. I mean, it's a lovely deck. I knew it was a lovely deck. Again, it's the thing about the pinks and purples. I'm not a real lover of pastels. I like brighter and bolder colors. And I'm just not a big fan of pink, which is what kept me away from the Star Child. But I love it. It's adorable. I mean, look at that. We have a rainbow heart. Oh, that doesn't go there. The little unicorn faces are so adorable. and just, you know, they look like horse faces, but they look like cartoon horse faces, let's face it. And they all look so gentle and charming, and I got great readings from this deck. Look at this moon card. That's so adorable. So yes, I bought the Crystal Unicorn to spite Doreen Virtue, and I actually love it a lot, and it's staying in my collection. The cardstock is really nice on this too. It's that matte, but it's not too matte. It's not rubbery to where it grips too bad. And the thickness of the cardstock is very nice, and it also bends very nicely for a shuffle. Apparently I can't do it on camera. Nice shuffle, nice bridge. So I really like this deck. I also used the Macalon Tarot. I showed that in last month's roundup, so I'm not going to show it this month, but I did use the Macalon Tarot some this month, and it is just as adorable as ever, and I really like it. I didn't use very many Oracle decks this month, and really I didn't use any at all. I used these enough to know whether or not they were staying or going, but I didn't really dig into them too deeply. So this will be a high-level impression of these decks. I was really interested, you know, I've started down a witchier path, not just tarot, but including some witchcraft, and thought this might be an interesting deck to use to sort of get in touch with that witchiness. This is not a deck for me at all. This is not what I'm looking for when it comes to sort of a witchy oracle deck. It's very fortune tellery. Is that a word? It's trying to tell fortunes, and it has this whole good witch, bad witch thing that I'm just not on board with. So like here, number 20, the Fire Witch. The Fire Witch makes temperatures rise. The pure fire of passion exorcises demons and tests the content of the furnace of your love. She ignites masculine flames of love, bringing pleasure in desire. Two lovers understand each other's true hearts. You and your lover will exchange sweet words during hot earthly passion. That's just not, that might work for other people, but that's not the kind of message I am looking for. And then it's the spell to make a lover rampant for your love. That is so not the kinds of spells I'm looking for either. So this one is up for grabs. It wasn't very expensive, so if you want something else, I'd probably throw it in for free. I used Crystals the Stone deck this month. This is not really an oracle deck. This is more of a learning tool with maybe a sort of a you go get 'em affirmation included. It has it's color coded. It has a picture of the gem on the front of the box and a message on the back. And let's turn one over and see. Tiger's Eye, what is it? Or Tiger Eye. Tiger Eye is a gold-brown quartz displaying a light-reflecting optical phenomenon known as chatoyance or cat's eye that appears just below the stone surface. Who needs it? The currently overthinking and mood-swinging Geminis and Virgos. Where to put it? In a string of prayer beads hanging from your middle finger, counted during meditation along with your blessings. When to use it? When your thoughts are not your friends. When reading Jungian theories or attempting to decipher a Zen koan. When you're all roar and not enough purr. When only equanimity of mind, body, and spirit, left brain and right brain, can get you square with the universe. And then the one little message, balance your whole being. So not really, I wouldn't call this an oracle deck. I would really a learning tool if you want to learn a little bit about crystals, not a whole lot. The pictures of the crystals are very nice. They're all, I don't know if they're any tumbled, but I have yet to find the perfect crystal deck. I would love a crystal deck that had, say, here is this, yeah, amethyst, that had an image of a raw crystal, maybe an image of a tumbled crystal, and had maybe some of this information, some scientific information, some esoteric information, and then maybe how to use it. So maybe I just need to read one of my crystal books. I have several. Anyway, this one, yeah, I'm not going to use this deck. I have others that work better for me, if anybody's interested. It wasn't expensive, though. I think I paid like 12 pounds for it, so 12 pounds. Where am I? I think I paid about $12 for it. So another one that if you got something else from me, I'd be willing probably to throw this one in for free. The last oracle deck I used this month was The Witchlings by Paulina Cassidy. This, it was not a really good month for oracles. Maybe that's why I didn't use them. It's a fine deck. The messages are very positive and affirming. It's a little juvenile for me. I really think it's aimed at maybe a 13 or 14-year-old. That cute little, I really think you could use this one with intention as well, as looking for the one you need and then going to the book and pulling a spell out of the book. They're cute. They have very positive messages. The spells in here are really simple. So let's have a look at Vitality. Vitality is the beaming force that gives energy and vigor to life. Vitality by Azalea. Azalea is always dynamic. Her years are so hard to gauge, since her vitality is twice as strong as most that are half her age. So it gives you a little message about Azalea, yet Paulina likes to name the creatures on her cards. And here's a little spell to summon vitality that is nothing more than an incantation, which is great. We have Elemental Synergy, a little spell here that requires some candles and a place to sit. And Rays of Vitality, I think each one of them has 3 spells. And then you have a white candle and your favorite incense. So these, oh, there's 4. And a Vitality Broom Dance, a broom, a citrus incense, and upbeat music. So the great thing about the little spells in here is they require very few ingredients or tools. And they're very much about working on yourself. So I think I've just talked myself into keeping this deck. Yeah, I think I have. This deck I'm going to work with again. I'm going to pull this one out again and work with again. I love Paulina Cassidy's artwork. And these little witches are, you know, just precious. Speaking of crystal books, I placed an order with Thrift Books because there were a couple of books that I wanted that I could get really cheaply. And so I picked up this book that I was kind of on the fence about, and I got it for, you know, maybe half of what I would have gotten it for on Amazon. And I'm using a 365 days of magic type, everyday magic. I'm not sure. I don't remember the title. It's not in the room with me. And I was enjoying, you know, just having a little short reading to go through every day and maybe a little information about how to work with some crystals on a regular basis. So I thought, well, I'll give this book a try. I was kind of on the fence. I'd read a few, you know, on Amazon you can open up the book, and I'd read a few pages and I wasn't so sure about it. But when I was doing the Thrift Books order, I went ahead and ordered it. And on February the 11th, we did an offering to water. And it says, this day marks the first appearance of Our Lady of Lourdes, the Lady of Healing Water in France in 1858. Honor this gentle, healing aspect of the goddess by placing pearls born in water and opal, which contains water, in a small bowl of water on your altar for the day. And then it says, afterwards use the stones as healing charms, etc. That one sentence about putting your pearls and your opals in water was a non-starter for this book for me. And I am not going to use this book. It's actually, I'm going to put it in the recycle bin. I don't, there could be 364 more days of great information in here, but I've been collecting gemstones for 25 years. And I know a good bit about how to take care of your gemstones. You never, ever, ever soak your opals and your pearls in water. It destroys them. Never. You should even, if you've got a pearl ring or an opal ring, before you wash your hands or do the dishes, you should take that thing off. Because the water, it's kind of like putting water on your skin. Water doesn't moisturize your skin, it dries it out. Water does not moisturize your pearls or opals, it dries them out. and eventually your opals will crack. So when I read that, I was like, nope, that's a non-starter for me. There could be lots of other great information, but there could be other things in this book that are as wrong as that. And if that doesn't happen to be a piece of knowledge that I have already, I'm going to believe something that's not true. So I just had to bring that up and mention that about this book. Something else that I've been loving this month is I got a candle making kit from Waxing Moonshine on Etsy. It cost $20 plus shipping, and it allows you to hand roll beeswax candles. If I'd known how easy it was, I don't know that I would have needed a kit, but beeswax candles can be quite expensive. Etsy definitely has the best prices that I've seen on beeswax candles. But what you get, for $20, I got 12 sheets of wax, 12 sheets of beeswax, which is quite flexible, wicking, and instructions. And it is so easy. I mean, it is so easy to do this. All you have to do is, in a room temperature room, lay it flat like this, put in a piece of wick, cut it to length, and start rolling. I mean, it is that easy. And then, because I've got a flat sheet of beeswax, I can, for spell work, anoint it with the oils that I want to put in it. I can pulverize some herbs and roll those into the candle. And oh, I'm just so thrilled with this. I think this is fabulous. I don't know, I haven't done a whole lot of investigating to see how much more cheaply I could get beeswax sheets and candle wicking without doing this little kit thing. But these people, yeah, I'm gonna keep buying from them, because for 20 bucks, 12 candles that I can then, charge completely do with my own intentions for spell work. And because it's easy. If it wasn't easy, I wouldn't do it. I love it. And the last thing I'm gonna talk about this month that I have absolutely loved is this shell wand that was included in February's Witch's Moon box. There is something just very amazingly special about this piece. I've used it in some spell work that I've done this month, but mostly I just take this wand and press it to my heart chakra, and immediately I just feel it's like water running over you. It's just a calming, amazing feeling of just connectedness and serenity. That's it. It just immediately makes me feel more serene. So I just couldn't go without mentioning this beautiful, beautiful piece that came out of the February Witch's Moon. Loved it. And that is all for this month. I think that's enough. Thank you so very much for watching, and have a fabulous, fabulous day.